I used to reprice steaks at my work when I was younger. When I was 18, I worked at a Piggly Wiggly grocery store. After the meat department guys went home at like 3 p.m., it was part of my job to restock meat on the sales floor throughout the night. At the time, my mom worked nights, and my stepdad would always be passed out drunk when I got home, so there would never be dinner for my brother and me. I'd always bring him home whatever he wanted, usually junk food like Hot Pockets, chips, etc. And I went through a huge steak phase. My family was kind of poor, so we almost never got steak. It felt fancy to me, so I would go find the thickest steak we had in the cooler and change the sticker price. So instead of being like $11.99, it was $1.99, making it exponentially cheaper. I did this probably twice a week for over a year and was never caught. Met a random woman at a large corporate function, and she confessed. I was recently at a large corporate party with many people I didn't know from different offices around the country. I was making small talk with the wife of someone I didn't know, and she started making humorous complaints about her husband. Nothing serious. Typical middle-aged marriage jokes. We're laughing and says, "We've never before, and we will probably never meet again. So can I tell you something I need to get off my chest?" I say sure, and she confesses that she had a years-long affair that ended about 2 years ago. I smile and say that's not uncommon and not so bad. She then gets very serious and says that's not the bad part. He recently died of cancer, and she so wanted to see him before he died, but she couldn't. Her husband actually knew about the affair, but his wife never did. She was on the verge of tears, saying she couldn't even go to the funeral, but she did go to his grave afterwards. She couldn't talk to her husband about it. She couldn't talk to anyone. I wanted to ask her more questions, but she stopped me. She got herself together and left to join her husband. Before the evening ended, she talked to me again, with other people around. Big smile on her face, saying what a great fun conversation we had. She asked to exchange numbers, which we did. She started texting me 2 days later, giving me a bit more details about the affair, explaining that she really loved the guy and missed him terribly, and then told me that her marriage was miserable and that she believes her husband is really gay. I lied about my age when I was 16 when I rented my first apartment, and it kind of snowballed from there. Editing to say, this post was ended abruptly and is giving woe is me. At the end, I'm only seeing it now, that is not the vibe I have towards this era or the choices I made during it. I'm genuinely grateful, and I suppose it more so shaped me than fucked me up. When I was 16, I left foster care, dropped out of school, and got a full-time job. At this FT job, I met this guy who I became friends with. This guy was also looking for an apartment, so we decided to be roommates. I wanted to be on the lease with him, my friend, so I lied about my age. Well, this friend was about 6 years older than me when he thought it was only 2. It wasn't long before we started being intimate with one another, and I met all his friends, who happened to be about 10 years older than him. I ended up hanging with all these people, going to bars with them, doing drugs with them, partying, living with, cheated on him with, and they had no idea I was absolute jailbait. I feel awful about it today. I was like 16 and 17, and they had no idea. My head's not right from it today, but I'm so grateful no one's lives were ever really hurt by it but my own. When I was 16, I lied about my age to sleep with an older woman. I don't want to get into the details that much, but when I was younger, I did as the title states through an online dating app for a hookup. It wasn't my first time, but I entirely recognize that that doesn't excuse anything at all. That was just context. I still feel horrible about it to this day and don't know what to do. I haven't told anyone about this, and I never even told her my age. I never told anyone about it until now. So a few years ago, I used to work in a veterinary clinic. During a routine exam while I was performing a TPR, temperature, pulse, respiration, I felt a gassy fart brewing and knew that it would be one of those silent but deadly ones. I took a quick peek around the back office to make sure that I was alone before letting it out. This particular patient was ready for discharge, and I was about to bring the dog out to his owner when the DVM walked past. I thought she had gone to lunch, stopped abruptly, took one quick sniff of the air and proclaimed, "Oh, God!" Feeling panicked, I quickly joined in on her self-proclamation by saying, "I know right." Literally, the dumbest thing. I could have said, this specific provider actually owned the clinic that I was working out of and decided that the dog needed a bath before we could discharge him to the owner. No charge, free bath, an unnecessary bath. Who do you think she asked to bathe that dog? A payroll glitch that allowed vastly overpaid me for months. This happened years ago, and I've never told anyone. I think it's been long enough that they ask for the money back, but I still get nervous. I was making about $26 an hour. During our shift, we would clock in and out of jobs as we started and completed them. Each job was for a different company. I worked at a fabrication shop. Certain jobs had tasks that would pay close $70 an hour. The company was pretty stingy on handing those tasks out, but I would average 5 to 10 H hours of my 40-hour work week, making $70 per H. One day, they had their tech guys come in and change some things with the computers, where we would clock in and out of our daily jobs. Nothing on my end changed. Clock in and out of the jobs per usual. I noticed my next paycheck was significantly higher and had about 20 hours of $70 per H work. I figured I didn't realize some of the tasks I was doing were at the $70 per H rate and felt pretty lucky. Next week, I had about 25 hours of $70 per H. I felt lucky but suspected something was off. The third week, I mentally tracked all the tasks I did that were considered $70 per H work and was at about 10 hours for the week. Nope, another 22 hours at $70 per H. I definitely knew something was off at that point but kept my mouth shut. Another guy mentioned something about his paycheck being bigger, and we silently agreed it was better to not say anything. This went on for months. At a certain point, the office people asked a couple questions about how we were clocking into jobs, but didn't ever say anything about our hours. IT was at our computer a couple times during this time frame, and after 4 to 5 months, they must have fixed the error. I'm not sure how much extra money I ended up with, but I know it was a lot more than I should have. I kept all the extra in savings in case they came back and said they had overpaid me and needed the money back. COVID hit, with slowed real bad, and they laid most of our department off. I ended up getting a job with another shop when work picked back up. Do I feel guilty? Not really. This company was super shady in a lot of ways and never treated employees well. Should I have said something? Maybe.